guys, welcome to another live. I know this live was, I didn't post it on one, you guys, but I'm out here and I figure out I'll just go live. I'm out in the countryside and I'm feeling really great, you know, and I'm like, I should just go live since I'm out here. Why not? Because I have a topic to talk about. And yeah, so let's talk about people who are abroad and they are scared to go home. Like, this is a problem. I was talking to one of my friends who used to work together, and she said, I'm never gonna go home. Never ever gonna go back home. And I'm like, why? And then she started to explain to me, like, why she would never go back home. And it's sad because uh, let me explain something to you guys. Like, living in Canada, living in America, because I have been to America. I have family in America. And I live in Canada. And I spend a lot of time in America. And I know what it is to live over there. In America, life is tough. People are living in very small places. Like, if you come from like Caribbean or somewhere and you go to America to make life, the rent is super, super expensive. My dad owned a building in the USA. And the first time I collected rent, I was like, I thought they had overpaid me. When I checked the money, my dad was away, so I went to 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 um to stay to collect the rent and make sure everything is okay. And the lady upstairs, she came down, she knocked the door, and well, my dad did tell me that the rent is due, so they're gonna come pay me anyways. So he told me to make sure I check all the money and stuff like that when they come to pay me. So I was like, okay, no problem. But I never asked my dad. I never asked my dad like how much they're paying. I know rent is expensive in the USA, but I never like asked him, like how much money he paid. I know how much he paid for the building and all that stuff. But I don't know, for some reason I never asked him. But anyways, the lady upstairs is 2 bedrooms upstairs. So she came and she knocked the door and she says, oh, hi, I come to pay the rent. And I was like, okay, sure. And she handed me the money and she said, oh, you're supposed to count. I said, yo, my dad told me to count it. So anyways, I was counting this money, and I'm saying to myself, what? That's a lot of money. And she's paid me in cash, right? So she says, all is correct. I said yes, right? Because my dad didn't even tell me how much money she was to pay me, but whatever she give me, I said, how much you were supposed to give me? And she told me. I was like shocked to my rockers. Okay. And I take this money. And then I was like, what? This is the amount of rent somebody actual paying? I couldn't believe it. So when my dad came home, I said, whoa. I said, Dad, uh, did she owe you a couple of months of rent? He said, no, she didn't owe me a couple of months of rent. That is her rent every month. I was shocked out of my rockers. I couldn't believe that rent was so expensive, you know? And then I started asking my dad, I said, okay, so how much is the people in the basement paying? You know? Hello, how are you? Thanks for joining the live. I was like, how much is people downstairs in the basement paying? And he told me the price. I was like, whoa, rent is expensive. So like when you experience something firsthand, it's like, it's just crazy. So I know like in America, life is tough. Life is not easy. It's very difficult. So anybody moving from abroad, where I come from, if you come from the Caribbean, whether you come from Grenada, you come from any of those Caribbean islands and you go to stay in the US, it is expensive in the US. So people are working really, really hard to sustain themselves in the USA. It's not a bed of roses. And then your family members back home, they don't understand like the things that you're going through. They don't understand. Like if you're living in the US or Canada, you can go ask your neighbor, okay, I run out of salt. Can I borrow some salt from you? That's not happening here. Like I know back home, you can ask your neighbor is going to come out in the garden and they're going to have bananas and they're going to give you some bananas. They're going to say, here are some bananas, here are some potato, whatever. They're going to share. No sharing is happening here in Canada or the US. Like you can't go to your neighbor's garden and pick something. They'll jail you. You can't do that. Back home, you can go to your neighbor's garden. You can pick some corn. They don't mind. We all are neighbors. You say, neighbor, I took 2 corn. It's okay. You can't do that here. So life is difficult. Another thing is here, you have all these bills to pay. Like you have your rent to pay, you have electricity to pay, you have light to pay, you have all these utilities that you have to pay. So when you're out in your country, like in Africa or in the Caribbean, you know you don't really have to pay that stuff. But most people, they're on their how you call it, ancestral land, or if they're paying rent, they're paying like a very small amount of rent. They're not paying so much money, like a $2,000, $1,600, $1,500, 2,000, like $1,200. They're not paying that kind of money when you're leaving in your country of birth, especially in the Caribbean. So for people who travel and their families expecting them to, like, send them money, oh, can you send me a shoes? Yeah, yes, Sancho Road. That's very right. You're very, very right. It's true. You know? So it's hi. Hi, Sancho. Thanks for joining the live. We're talking about life in America and Canada, and how when you try to go back home of the country where you belong, they look at you in a certain way, you know and think you're crazy for coming back, or they make you feel bad about yourself. So yes, that's what we're talking about. But yeah, so when you want to go back home now, you're kind of ashamed to go back home, because they sell you this dream of, oh, America is the land of the dream, Canada is the land of the dream, come here. And then you come here and you realize, what, life is hard here. I should have stayed in India, or I should have stayed in Jamaica. It's much easier over there. It's like, in the wintertime, I respect you too, Sancho. In the wintertime, sometimes, if you're from Bangladesh, wow. Sometime in the wintertime, it's so, so cold. And then the electricity bill goes up because you have to put the heat up because you are freezing. You know what I'm saying? You are freezing, and you have to put up the heat. I remember, like, when I just moved to Canada a couple of years ago, I had a heating bill like for $450 for the month. I was like, oh my goodness. I couldn't believe that bill. That's just my heating bill. And that's not including my electricity and my rent and my hydro. I was like so upset because I was like, I know it was very cold and I didn't expect the bill to be high. Can you imagine paying a bill for 400 and something dollars to heat your place? So, and then your family members back home, they don't understand, like, you can't send them money because you have to survive. Thank you. That's a new glasses I got. You know, you can't send them money because you have to pay to stay warm in the winter. It's cold in the winter. It's freezing in the winter, and they don't understand that. So my friend was telling me, "Oh, I'm never gonna go back to my country." And I said, "Why you don't want to go back?" And she said, "My family asked me to buy them a car. My family asked me to build them a house. My family asked me to send money to buy clothes. My family is constantly asking me for money and this and that and the other, and when I go back home, they expect me to bring, hi, what? Why are you saying that? Why would you type that in somebody's live? That doesn't make any sense. Okay, from Russia person. Why would you say that? Like, calm down. Nobody hates anybody on this live. Okay, we're all people. Just calm down. Bangladesh, it's time now, 3:20. In Canada right now, it is, I can't see the time. I think it's about 4:30. About 4:30, yeah. It's about 4:30. Yeah. So it's like an hour and something. You guys are behind in Bangladesh? Yeah. Yeah. Good to know, eh? So yeah, my friend was telling me that she's never gonna go back to her country. So, like, it's just crazy, the expectations that sometimes family members have of you. You know what I mean? So it's just incredible. I find that sometimes family members, they don't understand. Like, Canada and America is not like what they expect. They've been sold something online. You know what I'm saying? So it's sad. So my friend said, she never gonna go back. 4:30 p.m. in the evening. But it gets dark here on around 9:30ish. Like in the summer months, from end of May until late October, it starts getting dark here at around 9:10, 9:15. That's when it starts getting dark. But um um Yeah, so it's not gonna get dark until maybe about 9:15 today. It's not gonna get, yeah. Yeah, so PM. We're 4:30 PM. Like in the daytime. It's daytime here. It's daytime. 4:30 PM in the day. Yeah. So it's 3:20. Oh, you're AM. Yeah, of course. Yeah, you're in Bangladesh. Sorry, I made a mistake. Yeah. You're AM. Yeah, we're PM. Yeah. So yeah, that's right. I don't know English. Tell me if you mind. Oh, you're here. Welcome. Welcome to the chat. Russian person. Welcome. Welcome. Welcome to the chat. So going back, what I was saying is like some family members, they don't understand, that you can't look after them. It's just impossible sometimes. Like when you come to a new country, it's hard. They have too much expectations of you. Even some student, they come from Russia, they come from different countries, and they find it very hard to stay here because it's just a different environment, a different area, a different location. It's just not the same. I know I'm from Grenada, so in my country, it's a hot country. It doesn't have any winter. It's just summer and spring. So and we have the rainy season, but it's just, yeah, it's just difficult. So what do you guys think about that? Like you family members back home, you move to a new country, they expect you to send them all kind of stuff. I know that people are poor, and sometimes, family members want you to give them stuff because they're poor, they want a better standard of life. But I think to pressure your children to to look after you when they can look after themselves, it's sad. And I think as children, you migrate, like you need to tell your parents the truth. Tell them, listen, mom, like things are not as I expect here. I don't have a good job. Just tell them, like, we have to pay heat, we have to pay light, we have to pay that and that, and I wouldn't be able to send you all that money that you want me to send for you and stuff like that. Maybe I'll send you $50, maybe $100, but that's what I can manage. But I think when children, they don't tell their family members like what is really happening here, that is the problem. Because now I'm seeing like so much people are complaining. In my country, like I had family members who was asking me for all kind of stuff, and I just say, listen, I can't send you guys all that stuff because I just came to Canada. That was years ago, and I was like, I just came here. Like, I didn't look after myself, so I'm willing to help you all, but when I'm able to stand on my feet, and when I was able to stand on my feet, then I start sending lots of stuff for them. I'll post things in the mail. I'll send things via the boats. We have this containers here in Canada, and you could send these barrels for them and stuff like that. I send that, but not everybody that is able to do that kind of stuff. And I find some relatives, they have to understand that. But again, my friend was telling me that they have some cultural practices that when they travel, they're expected to do certain stuff, because like she was saying, like sometimes family members, like sometimes some family members, they say like they save up money and they help you to travel to another country. And yes, they travel to another country, they help you with money, and then when you come back, when you come to the country, you know you're kind of expected to send back money from them because they're the one that give you the money to come. So that's the kind of thing. But I would say that, like, if you definitely know that your community raised money for you to travel, and you're not able to fulfill the promises that you make to your community to travel to another country, then maybe you shouldn't do it. Because I think you're not being honest with yourself. Because if people raise money for you as a community and you expect it to come here, work, send money for them to do certain things, and then when you come, you break in your promise, that's not good. Better you tell them, like, upfront, that you don't want to do it. You'll do your best or something like that, but don't make promises, because then you're kind of breaking your promise. But again, it's like when you sold something. For example, when I came here a couple of years ago and I was going to school, you know. I met some people from a different country, from different countries, and they were telling me like in their country, a recruiter comes and they talk about the country. So, for example, they talk about Canada. So, it's say like the Canadian recruiter comes in and they talk about the university here, they talk about the colleges here. If you want to come here, and they told them, when you come here, you're going to get housing, you're going to get a job, you're going to get, the recruiters tell them all that kind of stuff. So obviously they don't know, they believe the recruiter because they've never been here before, and so they decide to come here and study, and then when they come here, they find it really difficult, and that's one of the main problems that some of the students who I spoke to when I was going to school told me. Like, they come here and they're very disappointed because what they were told is not what they see or not what they got when they come here. Because I actually had one student was staying in my house for a while because he was told that he was going to get how you call that, like residency in one of the colleges, and when he came he couldn't, he had to find his own place, and he didn't have anywhere to stay, so we took him in our house to stay, so this is like, yeah. And then when he started going to school as a student now, he was looking for jobs and looking for, things to do. I think he got a job in a cafeteria or something, and that job that he gets is it he have to look after himself, but he'll have to send home money for his sisters and his mother and all kind of stuff like that. So it is kind of tough, and I think sometimes people, parents, relatives, communities need to give their family a break when they travel and not push them so much, because life is very, very hard. And another thing is, when people are abroad for a while and they're ready to come home, a lot of people are ashamed to go home because they think their family is gonna, not accept them and say, well, you've been away for 5 years. What did you come back with? You've been away for 10 years. You have nothing. You can't even build a house. You can't even, things like that. But, like, I don't think like people should be ashamed. You go in another country and try to make life and it didn't work out, it's okay. Go back home and pick up yourself again and start all over. And don't let family, friends, village, relatives stop you from continuing your life. And I think, like, parents and relatives and stuff, they need to just stop that. They need to stop pressuring their family members when they go abroad to send things for them, and expecting too much. It's like they're sitting down on their bum, and then they expect somebody to come here, work in the winter, summer, autumn, spring, and look after them, and they have so much demands, and then the person who is here is like so ashamed to say, mom, dad, aunt, relatives, guardian, it's hard for me. I can't even manage to pay my own rent, so I can't send money. And some people, they send money for their relatives, and they're so uncomfortable because they can't pay their bills, they can't pay their rent. It's really hard. And another thing here is, when you travel to another country, the loneliness, because you don't know anybody here, and it's lonely. People are not as friendly as when you're in your country. When I'm in my country, I can walk down the street, people are gonna say hi to me. Even if I go to a new village, people doesn't know me, they say, hi, are you new around the area? Which village did you come from? Like, I am in Canada here and I go for walks, nobody even say like, oh, some people, they just walk on the other side, or I mean, they're not very friendly, they're not very, very friendly. So I think I think, like, when we travel to other places, we really need to tell our relatives or family the truth of what we were going through, so they know exactly what to expect, and we don't try to live this kind of fake existence. Oh, life is great over here, it's so good, this, I'm living in this nice place, da da da. Like, you don't need to lie. You like, you just need to be honest and say, listen, ma, listen, pa, this is what happening. I don't know if I'm going to make it out here. Life is tough, life is really, really hard, but I'm trying my best, and as soon as I figure things out, I will send something back home. I'll try to improve our living situations and stuff like that. And another thing is, when people come here, especially if you're coming to study, it's like you need to focus on what you came here for. Whatever country you came in, you need to focus on that thing. And you can't really focus on people back home, because then it makes you lose focus on what you're here for. So even if you're in school and you find a job, the money that you're making should be really to sustain yourself. You got to buy winter clothes, you got to buy summer clothing, you got to buy fall clothing, you got to have the right boots and shoes, you got to really get yourself together. So like, people pressuring you to send money for them, it can be a real stress, man. So yeah, that is the topic today, and that's what I wanted to really talk about on this live today. And if you guys have any like family members, or if you guys have been through the same stuff like what I'm talking about, because I know a lot of people, my friends, relatives, I have acquaintances and people from that I met, like job wise, colleagues, people from other countries that I met before, and they tell me all that kind of stuff, and one time, even one of my relatives back in my country, they were like so mad at me because they asked me to send them something, and I said, well, sorry, I can't send it to you because this thing is very expensive and I just can't afford it because I don't have the money to buy it for you. And they were very upset at me. They were very upset and say that I'm cheap and I'm mean and I'm and they said to me, can you go to the dollar store, even at the dollar store? But they don't understand, like, certain things you can't buy in the dollar store, and I think people watch TV and they see too much of things and they believe too much of things, which is not true, until they put their foot here and they set their foot here and they're gonna find out how it is to like get up in the morning when it's freezing cold outside and go stand in a bus stop and wait for the bus to come while your toes are freezing because you're not wearing the right shoes, or because you don't have the right jacket because you just can't afford to buy a good jacket. So yeah, so that's all the things I want to talk about in the live. If you have any family members or any friends or something that are going through the same thing, put a comment when you watch this live. Tell me if you went through the same thing. If you're a person who's been abroad for years and you come back to your country, put a comment. Tell me what people say. How people reacted towards you. They were gossiping. Oh, she came back and she didn't have anything. She went back to her mother's house. She couldn't even build a house. People are like that sometimes. Or they say, oh, you come out, why you leave this nice country and come back here? Why you leave this nice country and come back in this poor place? Why did you stay over there? Why did you send for your family members? But truly, guys, they don't really understand. I think like it is much better to stay in your country. It is a better way of life. Food is organic. You don't have to pay for rent if you have family land. Rent is cheaper. You don't have to worry about winter. The cold, you have to worry about it. It's always summer or a little bit of rain. You just need an umbrella. You don't have to worry about heating. You don't have to worry about mortgages. Stuff like that. It's the cost of living here is very, very high. But if you're in America or Canada and you have a good job, like a nurse, a doctor, a teacher, you work in an office, you work in the dentist, all them kind of high paying jobs with your university degree for IT, all those kind of jobs like that. If you have a really good paying job and you're in Canada and you're making some good money and you're able to, put yourself in a good financial state, that's great, because then you can really think about going back to your country and helping your folks there and, helping your family members. But if you're not in that state, it's just a very, very difficult situation. I have some friends who are from Cambodia, like come from Cambodia, and they come from Philippines and stuff like that, and they come here as nannies on a 2-year contract, and it's hard for them. It's like, they're living in the house of their employer, and it's like they have no privacy, and it's tough, and they didn't expect this kind of toughness. They thought they would come, have their own room, be able to move around and do whatever they want whenever they please. But these employers, they treat them like slaves. They want them to be there on a weekend, asking them to look after the kids. It's like, that wasn't the contract. You're supposed to work Monday to Friday, and then the rest of the week you're free to do whatever you please. But sadly, that's not what's happening. So I think people should really think twice before they really move to a foreign country. Make sure you get your facts straight and make sure you know exactly what you're doing before you move to a foreign country. And if you move to a foreign country and things are not working out for you, just don't feel bad or feel ashamed that, you know, you're in this foreign country. Just go back home and just cut your losses, start all over again, redirect, and see what you can do next. Because it's okay to fall down, but you must get up. If you don't get up, that's the problem. And many people, they fall down and they're scared to get up, and they're scared of what people is going to say about them, and they just stay right where they are and they never get up and they just stay there, you know. So it's okay to fall, but you need to get up. And it's okay to say no to your parents, it's okay to say no to your relatives. If people are putting too much pressure on you, you have to tell them, listen, you're putting too much pressure on me. I cannot manage this, I cannot do this, I'm very sorry, but I can't do it. It's just out of my control and out of my reach. Okay. So, guys, thanks for joining. Thank you, Sandro RD. Thank you for Honinta, the Russian person that's in my life. Thank you for joining. And there's other people in the life, but it keep going off and on. So I don't know what's going on. Life seems to be always a problem when I'm doing the live in the countryside. When I do live at the house, it's different. Like in my city house, it's different. But when I'm on my countryside property, the lives tend to be like I can see every single person who's in the live. I don't know why. I think it's the reception out there. The reception out there is a little bit not as strong as in the semi-suburban property. So, guys, thanks for watching. You guys have a awesome night, because it's AM in some places where you're watching me from, and then it's daytime in some places. So thank you very much. I will see you in the next live, and take care of yourself. Bye.